Okay, so let's go ahead and put together our spooky little floral centerpiece here. Now, the first thing we're going to do is we're going to work on our vellum. So grab all of your vellum pieces, and we're going to get those glued into place while our piece is flat. Now, before we do that, you want to go ahead and just get everything folded at the score marks, just to make life easier as we progress and assemble this piece. And we've got some little tabs at the bottom. Those are just to kind of strengthen the bottom of the piece so it's not just one layer thick, but we did that without creating more layers. So go ahead and do that, and then we can go ahead and begin putting our vellum down. And I wanted to do something to make this piece look weathered. So we got a really cool embossing folder by Doris. You can see it here. The name of the embossing folder and a link to it on Amazon, for those of you that have Prime, is in the supply list section under this product. It's also located on the actual product page for the bundle. So for those of you that don't know, if you look below the main product image for the piece on our website, there's a section labeled supply list, and we include all the quantities of paper, the colors of the paper as far as AC cardstock goes, and when appropriate and when possible, we supply links directly to those listings on Amazon. So you can see here, there's 3 panels that have cutouts. Those are the 3 panels that are going to have vellum. So what you want to do is go ahead, and this is the smooth side of our AC cardstock. I'm just going to go ahead and dot around the design like so, and just lay my vellum down, making sure that I'm covering up the entire cutout, not leaving any of it exposed, so that it looks like that. Okay, so I'm going to start with the small ones. I'm going to kind of do a little assembly line here, and dots are fine. They work just fine. Get that right dead center there. Make sure you've got all of that cutout covered by the vellum, just like that. Let me go over to this one, and then we'll do the bottom portion. So this piece also goes together pretty quickly. Probably would make 2 of these if you're planning on decorating like a dinner table for Halloween. I know I'm planning on it. And we have so many pieces that coordinate this year that I still am not sure which ones I'm going to put out, but it's nice to have options. So this piece of vellum kind of got a little wet. That's okay. All right, so here again, just dots around the perimeter. Try to get some dots into the little nooks and crannies on the little intricate designs. Just work your way around. Try to go quick, because this stuff, it gives you a little bit of time, but not much. Okay. And just make sure that you've got that entire cutout covered, just like that. Kind of smear that down, and let's take a look. That looks perfect. Okay, so we got 2 left here, and then we can go ahead and put our panels on the front. And my glue bottle keeps getting clogged up, but I wouldn't trade it for any other type of glue. Especially love the 2-ounce bottle. It's just really easy to hold in my hand. And occasionally just need to clean that tip. Make sure that that glue flows nicely. So again, just little dots. You don't want to cake the glue. Last thing you want is when you put the vellum down for that glue to shoot out into the visible area. creating a mess. We don't want that. So just get that right on there and just run your finger along that vellum, and that looks great. Okay, and last one. Get those dots going. All the way around. Just like that. And get your vellum in place. Flatten it out. And there we go. Okay. All right, so we've got this flipped over, and we can go ahead and put our panels on. Now, as you can see, we did parts of this in a gold, and then there's also some black panels. I've got a little bit of this gold foil. Sometimes the backing sheet wants to kind of come off a little bit. So as you can see, that's where that panel goes. I mean, this is pretty self-explanatory. That's where that's going to go. And then I have these black panels. I ran those through the embosser, okay? And then I took some gold ink and I inked these pieces, which I'm going to show you real quick here. Just put it down on my paper. I've got this dewdrop ink, as you can see here. And what I did was just kind of held it in my hand. And this is where I focused the pressure, or the stroke, right where my finger is, okay? So I just kind of went, and what happens is, I'm pushing down pretty good here. And you can actually do this on your surface if you need to. What's happening is, you know, I'm brushing it kind of hard in some places, pretty light in other places, because I don't want it to be perfectly consistent. I want like more gold on the black in some areas, less in others. So in the areas that I don't want a lot of gold, I'm pressing much lighter, and it covers the embossed area more than the actual surface. So I'm just kind of going after a very rustic and weathered, old kind of look. I don't want it just on the embossed area. I want a little bit of gold here and there just to kind of make it interesting. And this just totally made this piece look really old and worn. Okay, so it's kind of the look I'm going for. All right, so let's go ahead and get our panels all glued into place here. As you can see, you can pretty much figure out where all these go. This one here, these on top here, you've got the actual cutout to help guide you with the placement. Now these here, you just want to get these centered as best as you can. There should be a nice even border going all the way around the design, or the actual panel here. So you're going to want to go ahead and get all of your panels glued down, and then we can go ahead and continue on with the assembly of our project here. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and begin getting my glue on the back of this panel here, and I just cleaned off the tip of my glue bottle, and it's being kind of weird for a second here, but I think it's back now. The cool thing about this gold foil is that it's not textured on the back, so you have a lot more time to you have a lot more time before you have to put this on, before the glue starts to set, because it's not getting absorbed by, like, say, an AC cardstock, for example. So that makes it a lot easier. And again, I mean, this process is pretty self-explanatory. You just want to get this lined up perfectly with the cutout on the base of your structure. So kind of scan the entire length of this thing as you're placing it, just to make sure you've got like very little to no red showing through, or whatever your base color is. That worked out perfectly for me. I got that spot on, just like that. Okay. And I'm gonna go ahead, because I'm not 100% sure if my ink is completely dry yet. I don't think it is. I'm gonna leave that alone for now and let that all dry before I start putting those panels on. I'm just gonna continue working on these smaller ones here. And I lost my magic touch on my glue bottle all of a sudden here. There we go. And just putting little dots and some little squiggly lines here and there in the larger areas. And we're gonna get that glued down. If you ever feel that you have too much glue in a certain area, you can always wipe it down with your finger and spread it thinner so that you don't make a big mess. Don't be afraid to use your fingers. I mean, we're using them anyway, so it's okay if you get a little bit of glue on them. Okay, so that is what that cutout should look like. And then for these guys here, I'm gonna go ahead and just get a little bit of glue on it. And again, do your best to get that nice and centered on this piece. And that looks good. You can always nudge it a tad if you need to. The glue doesn't set that quick. And because they're not side by side, even if you're off a tiny little bit, no one's really going to notice. So don't worry too much about being super perfect with that. Do your best. Okay, there we go. Get this piece on here. And like that. Push that down. Give it a chance to set. And a little bit of glue. Too much glue up there. I'll rub that off a little bit. Okay, that looks great so far. I'm gonna go ahead and see if, yeah, I can work with this now. Okay, so we're gonna go ahead and lay down our panel here, okay, with the embossing and the inking, and it's gonna look really cool. Okay, just make sure you get enough glue out to the edges, just like that. And again, do your best to get that nice and centered so that you have a nice even border going all the way around your design. There we go. And it may help to use, because I am actually getting gold on my fingers here, because it's not completely dry. Might want to use a piece of paper or something to help push that down. But that looks really cool actually. So, I don't know. Either way, or just give it a little more time to set before you work with that piece. I'm totally fine with it right now. And actually if I smear a little bit more on the piece, I think it'll kind of just give it more character and kind of give me a look that maybe I wasn't anticipating, which is totally fine. Sometimes great things happen when you have an accident. Well, that's not true for everything in life, but okay. So that is that is 3 sides of our 6-sided vase that is actually was designed after a coffin. Kind of looks like Dracula's coffin. Okay, so you want to go ahead and repeat that same process on the other side. Now obviously there's 2 sets of cutouts instead of just 1, but the process is exactly the same. Get all your panels on there and then we can start joining this thing together. Okay, so we've got our 2 sides put together Now, the first thing we're going to do is we're going to join these two pieces together to make one long piece. And we're going to do that by gluing this tab to its neighbor. Okay, so you want to get a good line of glue there, get a little bit extra up towards the crease, the score line, and I like to spread that out with my finger so I can get a nice clean looking seam. And I love working with things when they're still flat. Just get that lined up perfectly. You want to butt it right up against that score line. You don't really want to go over it. You want to be like in the middle of it if possible. I know it's a really thin score line, so it's hard to gauge, but the cool thing is when you fold this in half over itself, the tabs at the bottom should line up perfectly, and that is a good indicator that you've got this thing lined up perfectly. Okay, so let's unfold it. Just push down here on the tab and let that set before we move on. Okay, and we can go ahead and at this point, before we close this up completely, we're going to go ahead and join these tops together first. So it doesn't matter which side you start on. I'm going to work left to right and just get that glue right out to the edge and spread that out. And then go ahead and connect the neighboring piece right to it, just like that. Okay. And we're just going to repeat that process all the way down the line. These tabs up here, we're going to glue those down when we're all done here. And that's just going to reinforce the top for us. So we can move that back and get the glue on our next tab here. Get a little bit out to the edge, just like that. Okay, and glue this next piece right in place. Take your time. Try to make it nice and precise. Just like that. There we go. All right. Now you may want to pause in between these as you go, just to make sure that each piece sets perfectly so it doesn't come apart as you begin to work on the next piece. I'm maybe pushing it a little bit here. I'm working a little too quick, but I don't want to bore you. I don't want you to sit here and watch glue dry. Although it might be a little more fun than watching paint dry, because we're actually creating something cool. Okay. Now if you need to, you can put this down on your surface to give you a little extra leverage, because it is a little awkward to hold this in midair. Okay, so you can put that down on your surface and push down like that just to get it in place. Okay. So that is coming together nicely for us. And I'm just going to continue on down the row here. Get our glue in place. And spread that out nicely. Get the next piece connected. Again, just make sure that you're aligning it properly. There you go, just like that. And then once it gets its initial grip, you can put that down on your surface and use your finger to kind of add a little bit of force to it so that it gets a good solid hold for us. Okay. And moving right along here. Our next little piece here. Try to get a little bit of glue out to the edge. Okay. go. So hopefully you're seeing the resemblance of a coffin here, which again is what we intended with this. All right, so at this point, you can go ahead and close this shape up. I'm gonna go ahead and put glue on this long tab here. And again, getting a little bit out to the edge and spreading that thin. That also helps make this piece dry a lot faster too. So get that perfectly aligned, and might have to get your finger in there. There we go. Kind of nudge it a little bit if you feel like you don't have it perfectly aligned, and you can actually get your hand in there. Okay, and we'll put that flat on our table here and just kind of push from the inside. There we go. Okay, and that just leaves one little tab here. Okay, and what we can do is we can fold that tab down. And where is here's my little pick-me-up tool. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a little bit of glue down on a scrap piece of paper. I actually had someone thank me for this little tip here in the official Dreaming Tree group on Facebook. So I'm taking the flat end of my pick-me-up tool, just getting a little bit of glue on there, and then just using that to get my glue on that tab, because that nozzle, the tip of my glue bottle, is not really going to fit in there. So this kind of makes quick, easy work of little nooks and crannies and tight little spaces like this that you probably couldn't get a glue bottle into. And then actually I'm going to make sure that I don't have any of that popping out, and I'm going to go ahead and close that up. That looks really good. Just like that. Okay, now you want to go ahead and give this a little bit of time to really just set. And that is looking pretty sharp so far. And again, these little tabs up here, these are just kind of reinforcement pieces. I'm going to pull these back for just a second. And what we're going to do is we're just going to put just a little bit of glue on each of these. You don't need much. And I'm just going to go ahead and shove them in and just squeeze them into place on the inside. Just like that. And that's going to make that top layer 2 layers thick instead of just 1 layer. So it'll kind of strengthen it up, make it more sturdy up there. And then we're going to repeat the same process on the bottom. Okay, so just hold that in place for a few seconds until it gets a hold. There we go. And that's that. And then we can flip this thing over. We're going to do the same thing on the bottom. Now with this one, I think because the surface area is a little bit wider, I'm probably just going to do one at a time, just so that I don't end up ruining anything. And you can actually put this flat on your surface and just push down like that. Okay, moving right along. So this process is pretty repetitive, so I'm probably not going to show you all 6, but you can go ahead and just finish this off. Make that nice and sturdy on the bottom, because we will be lifting this up so we can put our little tea light in there. And that just makes it more accessible. And having that 2 layers thick at the bottom is going to extend this thing's lifespan and keep it from getting any unsightly creases or bends or anything that deter from its beauty. Okay. So we'll go ahead, and after this, we're going to put together the little base that we've designed for this. And then we can put together our flower, and we'll be all done here. Okay, so there is the main part of this. Really cool piece, especially with the crackle on there. I really love that. So let's go ahead and grab this piece here, and these pieces here. Okay, we can go ahead and put together our little base here, and we'll begin by simply folding everything at the score marks. Getting our little tabs all folded over. The construction of this thing is going to be pretty quick and easy. It's all almost one piece. Couldn't quite get it to one piece, but it'll go pretty quick. Okay, so let's get that nice and folded over. Okay, really all we're doing is each of these little tabs here has a smaller triangular tab there. You can see it lit up there. And what we're going to do is just put a little dab of glue right on there. I'm kind of smushing it down with the glue nozzle. And we're just going to connect it to its neighbor like this. And you want to get that connected at the correct angle. It should be like that, just nice and straight up and down. Okay, now if you want to, you can put that flat on your table and push down from the inside. Okay, and we're just moving right along here. Put some glue on this next tab. Just kind of spread that out and smush it down so it's nice and even. Try to get it out to the edge if you can. And just push and hold that down. It might help to move these flaps out of the way so you can get your fingers in there. Okay, this is kind of a small tab, but that's fine. Okay, next one here. Nice and even. If you need to, spread it out with your fingers, you can. And I'm just kind of bending that a little bit. There we go. Just push and squeeze that between your fingers just to get it to hold. The surface area on it's really tiny, so it won't really take that long for it to grip. But be patient with it so it doesn't come undone as you start working on the next little tab here. Okay. So again, just little dots there, and then if you need to spread it thin with your finger, you can. And get the next one in place here. Just squeeze it between your two fingers. Okay. And that looks pretty good. Okay, let's move that out of the way. And we've got two more here. Let's pull that back. Okay. And let's get that in place. Make sure you've got it nice and lined up. Oops. All right. And that just leaves one last little triangular tab. You can see it right there, real tiny. Same size, it's just right now it's a little hard to get to because we're closing this piece up. So get your tip in there and get a little bit of glue right on that tab. And last side, close that up. If you got a little bit of glue that came out, just wipe it clean while it's still wet. Okay, and close that up. There we go. Okay. Now we can go ahead and fold this in like that. And we're going to grab this piece here. Okay, and what I want to do is find the, well, I guess it really doesn't matter. What we're going to do is we're going to start with one tab here. Let me clean off the tip of this thing. Make sure I got good flow here. Okay. Pick one tab and get some glue on it, nice and thin, and then get some glue out to the edge. Okay, I'm going to spread that out. Grab this piece here and get that nice and aligned with one edge of this little hexagon. Make sure that you've got it nice and centered, nice and even. You can put that down on your table and push down. Okay. And you should have a nice seam there. And then we can go ahead and close this up. Now, in my experience, this can be a little challenging to get this all closed up perfectly the first time. It's possible, I've done it, but there are instances where it's, you don't always get that nice clean seam on the end. I'm putting a little bit of glue right on the edge at the seam in hopes that when I close this, and before you close it, lift these up a little bit. So as you push down, it grabs more of that surface area. Okay, and then go ahead and just kind of scoot it around clockwise or counterclockwise, whatever's easiest for you, and nudge and kind of shimmy the tabs and the walls, I should say, of the side of this thing into place. And then apply pressure with your thumb as you're kind of gliding it along, just to get it to stick. And this time around, it looks like it came out pretty dang perfect. And actually, we can actually make that the bottom. Since the top was already connected, we may as well make this the top because it's going to look the most flawless. Okay, so this can be the bottom, and the bottom actually looks great. So I don't need to worry too much about going in and fixing anything. Okay, so a couple more things with the base. We've got this piece, and this is kind of a mechanical piece. So what you want to do is go ahead and just fold everything at the score marks. Okay. And what we're going to do is, actually I want to fold it the other way so that the texture side is kind of sandwiching itself. So the texture side is like this. Okay. And we're going to connect this to itself. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and put glue on this little tab here, just like that. Get it nice and aligned. Okay, just hold that in your fingers for just a few seconds until it's set. Just make sure that you've got the top of it perfectly aligned. Okay, and then what we're going to do is we're going to flatten it out like this. Okay. And we're going to pop this piece right on top of it. So that the walls poke through. So just poke it through like I just did, okay? And then what we're going to do is we're going to put glue underneath or on top of these tabs here, and we're just going to glue it to the underside of this little trim piece. Okay, and this is just kind of a little lip that's going to keep our vase from getting knocked over or just falling off randomly. It's going to keep it in place for us. Okay, so I'm just flipping that over, just putting a couple dots of glue or a little line of glue on there, and then gluing it right on there. Okay, it should be a nice tight fit too, so it shouldn't move around on you at all. Okay, just get that right under there. And then we're going to take this entire piece and we're going to glue it to the top of our little base here. And we'll be done with the base. We'll be done with the little vase, and then we can go ahead and put our flower together. And actually we do have a little bit of gold trim that's going to go on this base, so we still have to do that, but that's actually very simple. Okay, last little piece here. There we go. All right. Should be nice and tight. Okay, so that's just going to get glued right on like that. So you can go ahead and get your glue right along the center of that thing. And then I'm going to work some glue out to the edge as well. I want that to look seamless if possible. I'm getting a little upset with my glue bottle here. Okay, get that nice and centered on there. There we go. And just push down all the way around. Run your finger along the edge there as you apply pressure. And let that set. Oops. Okay, well that worked out nicely, and our little coffin vase should fit on there nicely as well. And actually, again, before we wrap this up, we've got these two little trim pieces. There's little score marks here, and what you're going to do is you're going to glue those right to the side of the base there. So you can go ahead and get your glue on there. And I would probably start in the middle and just kind of use your fingers here to feel for the little corners. Spread that out and then run your finger along the top and bottom of this piece just to make sure that you have it nice and aligned with the existing base. Okay, there we go. Now if you want to, because gold foil sometimes has, well, it's not solid core, it's white core, you can go in and just kind of ink that little part there in case you have some white core showing through. Okay, and same thing with the other side here. Just go ahead and fold at the score marks and get your glue on your little band here and that little trim piece. Okay. Find the middle one and run your finger along there, and that should meet perfectly with the other side there. And just push that down. Okay. And then I'm going to follow up here with just a little dab of ink right where they meet. And now actually, as I was pulling that one down, I kind of lifted up that piece right there. I'm just going to grab my little pick-me-up tool and peel this back a tad. Just get a little extra glue underneath there and just push and hold that down until it sets. Okay, so there's our little base with a nice gold trim on it. Okay, that's semi-set, good enough for me. And there's that, and all that's left to do is put our little flower together. Okay, so let's go ahead and put together our flower. Let's do a little bit of pre-prep here. Now you'll notice that the flowers, they have one petal that has a little pentagon, and the idea is that we're going to glue the little pieces here. There's a little tab here, okay, and we can go ahead and put a little piece of, or a little drop of glue right on the tab, and then we just join it to one side of the pentagon, okay, and then we can go ahead and continue on down. So just doing a little pre-prep here, and before I started this, I did some inking on all these petals just to kind of make it more interesting. Okay. And of course we're going to train all these too, but I wanted to do this flat because it's just a lot easier to do it flat. And don't worry if you have a little bit of glue spilling out. For the most part, all of this is going to be hidden away, so it doesn't really matter. You're not really going to see anything all the way on the inside part of the flower. So don't worry about that at all. Okay, so it kind of is going to look like that. And then we're going to take the, this little triangular tab and glue it to the back there. And that's going to kind of keep it up. So what we may want to do actually, before we do that though, is train these a little bit. And I got to find my 3/8 inch dowel, because that is the one I prefer to use. So I'm going to go ahead and just train these out for now. We may go back in and train them in various directions once we have it all together, but I'm just doing this to kind of get them out of the way so they don't fight each other. Okay, and we're going to take these tabs and actually glue them to themselves. And it's totally fine if you glue the tab on the inside. Not really going to make a difference. Just try to get it as square as you can, and then they're going to flare out like that, so they won't be fighting each other. Okay, so let's just go ahead and get all this pre-prep done here, and then the rest of it will just kind of fall into place pretty easily for us. And this doesn't have to be perfect, and actually the less perfect it is, the more realistic it'll probably look. So don't be overly obsessed about getting every little piece glued together perfectly and vertically and all that stuff. It's not worth obsessing over. Just as long as you get pretty close, that's all you really need. And then the rest of it will just kind of fall into place. So just kind of stick my finger in there and hold that until it sets for me. I've got my glue gun warming up, because I think when we adhere this to our bamboo skewer, it'll probably be a good idea. So I'm just going to leave that dry for a little bit before I start messing with it anymore. And I'm just going to get the next piece set up here. Okay, so here's the one with the little pentagon. And again, we've got the little piece here. And we're just going to put a little drop of glue on, pop it right next door, and just push that down. Okay, grab our next one. Now obviously the black one, I didn't do any inking on the black because that really ain't going to do anything. So just going down the row here, taking this bottom tab, folding it up. Let me see if I can show you that. There it is, that little tab right there. Just putting a little bit of glue on it, sliding it under our little pentagon, and then just pushing down right there, sliding it right under that side, pushing it down, letting it get a hold. So we'll let that dry before we start gluing our little triangles in place. Okay, there we go. All right, so I'm going to let that one, that was the last one I did, so I'm just going to skip that one for now. Go over to this one, and again, just get it glued to its neighbor. And it does help to kind of train these a little bit to get them out of the way. So I'm just going to do that really quick, just down here, just so that they bend out of the way. So as we're gluing this, it doesn't interfere. Just kind of stays out of our way there. Okay, so that's nice. Go ahead and put some glue on the next little triangle. Get that in there. Yeah, we're going to repeat this process 2 more times with 2 more layers. And then, go ahead and start assembling this thing. It's going to look pretty wicked. I wanted I don't know, I guess when you go to Michael's or Joann's, you see that, floral and wreaths and stuff like that, you still see that for Halloween. I mean, I guess typically it's not the first thing you think of as far as like what am I gonna craft for Halloween, but it is really cool, to have some floral elements despite the fact that it's, it's Halloween. So anyway, I'm gonna take this one, I'm gonna glue it to the back side just because it's a little bit easier. Again, this is all gonna be hidden away, so don't worry about being super perfect with this. As long as you get the basic shape, the leaves are all that really matters. The structure at the bottom, it's not overly important. All of it is going to be tucked away and hidden ultimately, so it doesn't really matter. So again, I've got this piece here. Here's our little octagon. I'm sorry, pentagon. And we're going to do the same thing. Just bend that little tab down. Just a little dot of glue. Stick it right under there and push down. Let that set. Okay, and there we go. Popping that right on there. Okay. Now we could have joined all these and made it one piece, but that would have taken up almost a full sheet of 12 by 12 paper, and we didn't want you to have to use that much paper. So this was the solution for that. Okay, you know what, I'm gonna put that off to the side for a second and let that dry more before I move on. I'm going to go ahead and work on this piece here. And just get that underneath, and push down, and move on to the next piece. Okay, so we're almost there. Almost there. A little too much glue there. Okay. And last but not least, got this piece here. Okay, all right, let's go back to this piece and bridge it all together. Now I'm gonna go ahead and flare this out. Train it out, I should say, so that it stays out of my way. All those pieces are pretty much set now as far as the glue goes, so I can work with this confidently. Okay, so again, I'm just putting glue on the back of the little triangle there and connecting it to my neighbor. Okay, just like that. Just squeeze that for a second, let it set, and move on to the next one. There we go. There we go. And moving right along here. The rest of the process is gonna be fun. I'm just gonna be sliding this through our little skewer, throwing on a little hot glue, and then we get to kind of finesse and train everything and make it pretty. And the cool thing is that the reason we did it this way is we wanted the the vase here that's shaped like a coffin. I mean, for Halloween purposes, it's a coffin, but you could totally jazz that up for other purposes. We didn't want to limit it to just Halloween, because some people might see that as, well, who knows, something else. You could even see it used at a wedding, or who knows. And that's why we did it that way. So we've got that together. We have this little piece here. What we're going to do is I'm going to go ahead and just curl these out. This is going to actually cover up the bottom for us. Okay, and we want to go ahead and take this little tab here. Just get your glue on here. Kind of pop that out to the edge and glue it to itself to create this little piece here. And that's going to cover everything up nicely after we're done. So that's why I said don't worry too much about this part, because that's all going to be covered up by this anyway. Okay, so let that dry. And at this point, we can go ahead and begin putting together the actual flower. So here is my bamboo skewer. And here are our little stamen pieces. And what you want to do is you want to take one end of that and just flat on your table, just roll it up. Roll it up. Don't touch anything over here. You want to just focus the pressure right here. That's all going to roll up. Try to keep it nice and straight and nice and tight. Okay, and then we're going to put a little bit of glue on at the end to make this thing hold. Okay, I'm just rolling it on my stick here. Okay, so that's nice and tight. You can use hot glue if you want. I'm just going to use regular glue. I think that's fine. And I'm going to set that back down on my table and use my table to finish that off and roll it nice and tight. Okay, I'm just going to hold that in my fingers here until it fully sets. Okay, it'll set pretty quick. Get my 1/4 inch dowel, and I'm going to start just kind of finessing the little stamen pieces here. Okay, and we're going to curl these like crazy. I'm just getting them started by curling them out. And you want these to be pretty random. I'm going to curl them in various places. Just kind of bend them and curl them. You can even take it and curl it around your stick to give it that kind of look. Okay, so I'm just getting this started right now. We're going to come back to this. Okay, the next layer that we want to put on. Okay, so the next layer that we're going to put on is this layer here. And before we do that, I'm just going to take these petals and I'm going to train them and flare them out. Again, we're going to probably come back to this once we have this fully assembled. I'm probably going to want to go in and finesse these petals and leaves even more, just because you never really know what it's going to look like at first. Okay, so anyway, we're going to stick that through and pull it up like that. Okay, so that's kind of what that's going to look like. And what we want to do is I'm going to put a little bit of hot glue right at the bottom of our little stamen here. Okay, and then I'm going to push that up, and it's going to stick nicely for us. Okay, so just push that up, make sure that it's nice and flat on there. And that is looking wicked cool. Oops. And don't push too hard. I don't want to pop the stamen off. Okay, so give that a few seconds to really set. Okay, and then you can go ahead and get your next layer of hot glue onto the bottom of that. It should be nice and flat for you. So when the next layer goes on, okay, so I'm going to go ahead and get my next layer of hot glue on the bottom of our first set of petals. Okay, I'm just going to slide that up And you want to kind of offset it so it's not right on top of itself. Okay, actually, you don't have to. Okay, and just hold that in place and let it set. Okay. Thankfully, the hot glue does dry pretty quick, so that's good. Okay, so we've got our pattern and then our purple. Next is the black, and then we're going to put our leaves on and then close it off. So I'm just getting my next layer of glue on there. I'm going to take my black petals, or black flowers, flower petals, and just stick them right in there. And just push lightly on the bottom there so it gets a hold. Okay. Just like that. Okay, it's okay if you have it like that. Again, we're gonna end up training this thing, and looks like I forgot to put this one together here. So let me flare this out. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and flare that out like that, down, and then I'm gonna flare it up. Okay, training it down, and then up. Going down, and then up, down again, up again, down, and up. Okay, and then we can go ahead and connect these here. So just like we did with the other flowers, and these are actually just leaves, we'll go ahead and join them like that. Okay. Just like that. Get our glue on the next little tab here and connect them over to our neighbor. You can see the inking that I did on there. I was happy with most of it. There were a couple little petals that I didn't really like the result, but I think all in all, it works, and it just kind of gives it a little more interest and brings it to life, and I'm happy with it. I mean, you know, flowers in nature aren't always perfect either, so okay, so we're just getting that connected, and we're going to put our hot glue on the bottom of that, slide this up, and get our leaves on there, cover it up with our last little bit, and then again, spend a little time just kind of finessing all the leaves and the petals and all that good stuff until we have the desired look and effect. Okay, so let's flare these out a little bit more. All right, so that looks good, and we'll go ahead and grab our main stem here and just kind of twirl this thing around as I'm pulling on the trigger of this thing. I'm going to go a little heavy on the glue here. And that will actually kind of adhere it to the stick better too. Okay, so let me just move this out of the way. Oh, this glue gun not being my friend today. Okay, so we'll just slide that over and pull that up and through. Just like that. Wow, that's a really cool looking flower. Perfect for Halloween. Okay, and just hold that in place and let that glue really set. And last but not least, we've got this piece here, and really all you want to do is just take a little bit of glue and just put it towards the hole on the bottom. Get in there as best as you can, and then slide it through, and it should just stay for you like that. Okay, so there's your flower. And again, I really recommend taking some time and finessing these petals, maybe pull some of these out, curl some of the little details here in various directions. Okay, and finesse it until it has the look that pleases you. Okay, and just pull some of these down. And I really like it the way it is, honestly, but I am gonna kind of train it and just make it a little more interesting here and there. And then these guys here, I'm gonna go ahead and curl the tips in and just have fun with it. Make it your own. And once you have it finessed the way you want it, okay, it's pretty much done. You can go ahead and this doesn't get glued to your project at all. And actually, you will need to, depending on the size of your hibachi skewer, probably just need to cut it or just trim it or cut it off. And based on the shape, it'll sit in there perfectly for you. And there is your little floral centerpiece.
Stay on top of all things Dreaming Tree and engage with us today. Get the latest news and enter in our giveaways on Facebook. Get inspired by following us on Pinterest. Be the first to see our new product launches on Instagram. Do you prefer Twitter? Yep, we're there too. Watch our beautiful product trailers and assembly tutorials on YouTube. For more information, visit www.3dsvg.com. Live, craft, love, and dream.